When Apple first announced Apple Arcade, it wasn't too difficult to be pretty skeptical about this whole enterprise because Apple, after all, has been pretty apathetic about video games in the face of the iPhone launches and stuff. They've done some on-stage presentations, but for the most part, they've kind of let the games in the App Store go a little bit crazy with microtransactions and all kinds of different ways to, I think, pollute the ecosystem of what video games could mean for the platform, for iOS and also for Apple TV and the iPad. It's been a little discouraging as somebody that has been super enthusiastic about the potential for games on the iPhone. I was there with the first iPhone. You know, I played games when they first were released like Super Monkey Ball and was really impressed with what was the potential of this new device and this new kind of ecosystem that Apple was developing. I thought, okay, this could be really cool. And then it got really corrupted and polluted with all kinds of cheap games and you know, just frankly lousy games that were always asking you to chip in more money. So this idea that Apple was going to put video games front and center in their on-stage storytelling and create a whole different platform, which was going to be about monthly subscriptions and providing a service where you could basically walk up to an all-you-can-eat buffet of video games and play as much as you want, download them. They wouldn't ask you for any more money. You'd get the entire game. You'd be able to play them, you know, on the airplanes and anywhere where you were away from Wi-Fi, or a cellular network, which was really important as far as I was concerned for portable gameplay. And I was just really bummed out when I saw that a lot of games in the past had sort of walked away from the idea that you'd be able to play these games on an airplane. It just baffled me. But thankfully, Apple Arcade allows you to carry your games with you and play them wherever you want, download them to your systems. I have to say I'm very impressed. I think this is a pretty darn cool launch for this new subscription service. They're offering your first month free so you can jump in and try it. So you can take what I'm going to tell you about Apple Arcade, but also if you are an Apple customer, there's no harm in giving it a shot. And if you don't like the games, if you think they're just too mobile-centric, which they are, and you're just not going to play them, then drop out. You can cancel before your month is over and you don't have to pay that $5 or it's $6 in Canada. I was diving through some of the software and I have to say there's some very impressive games on here. Sayonara Wild Hearts, which I just reviewed, it justifies at least the trial of Apple Arcade. It's an incredible rhythm game. It's a synesthesia kind of experience where you've got all of this incredible pop music and, you know, lights and colors and sounds coming at you. It's a really wonderful escape. You know, I'm going to say that you can't really talk about Apple Arcade in its totality if you just think of it as something for your phone. If it's just an iPhone experience for you, then you're missing a big chunk of what is possible with Apple Arcade. First of all, you can share the games with other people in your family, so you can have them on tons of devices, which is pretty darn cool. But I've got the Apple TV, and that's where I stream my Netflix and stuff. And I've got the 4K version to go with the 4K set that I play a lot of video games on. So I downloaded a bunch of these games to the Apple TV, and you can also download these games to an iPad with iPadOS 13, which is out there now too. So you can have bigger screen experiences with these Apple Arcade games, and you can play them with a controller. I've got a Nimbus controller, which I bought a long time ago to play games on the Apple TV, and admittedly, I didn't play that many games on the Apple TV. So I played Sayonara Wild Hearts with a controller, which was great, but there are lots of other titles. I think there's more than 100 at launch here with Apple Arcade. I played Clay Entertainment's Hot Lava. These guys are famous for Don't Starve. Hot Lava is a very cool idea. It's a first-person parkour game, not unlike Mirror's Edge, except it's nothing like Mirror's Edge. You play as like action figures, which are introduced in an incredible cut sequence, like a toy commercial that Clay and a production company must have filmed, but it's just so wonderfully put together as if it's tied to a Saturday morning cartoon. You're trying not to touch the floor. You're jumping from obstacle to obstacle, trying not to land in the hot lava, and of course there's all kinds of new challenges and things that will pop up and try to get you to fall into the lava or slip up and trip or whatever. Super cool concept, super cool design, and it works whether you're using you know the tilt functionality of your phone or if you're using dual stick controls and using the right analog thumbstick to kind of look around as your camera. I was impressed. I played this on the phone, loved it, played it on the Apple TV and loved it. And even before they updated the Apple TV, I was able to mirror from the phone to my Apple TV and play it quite well using a controller on a big screen. Konami also worked with Dylan Cuthbert's Q Games to make a new iteration of Frogger. The graphics are great. It's got a really candy-coated color palette that's passing across it with great 3D little elements. Frogger's got to collect all kinds of little tiny frogs and get to the end. And the challenges are crazy. You've got little toy blocks and little toy cars and stuff like that. Super cute. You know, it's timeless, and of course there's been lots of Frogger derivatives and games that are free to play that borrow obsessively from the Frogger dynamics. So this isn't like something brand new, but it's definitely accessible and definitely well made and a nice addition to Apple Arcade. Chuchu Rocket from Sega is also there, and this is where you're trying to get little mice into a rocket ship and you're jumping from planet to planet. Pretty straightforward kind of concept and design with some intricate puzzles, which will trip you up a little bit because you've got to turn these 3D worlds around to see exactly where the little mice are going to run to. Again, addictive and well made and cute, so I dug that one quite a bit. Now, another puzzle game that I played is called Tint, and this is a painting puzzle game where you dip your paintbrush into a color and you drag the paint across the paper and you try to pass across other colors to make new colors that unlock all of the different little challenges, and then you're flipping pages. And I played this and thought it was really well done. It was much more difficult to play with a controller than it was with my finger on my iPhone screen, but I like this game quite a bit. But you know, because there's so many puzzle games in the traditional App Store and so many of them are free to play, it's a little difficult to get too excited about puzzle games in Apple Arcade. But of course, they're going to satisfy a certain demographic out there that loves that type of gameplay. It is a little bit easier for me to get excited about games like Oceanhorn II, which is included in Apple Arcade, and it runs really well. You play a hero that's got a sword and a shield and all kinds of little abilities and gadgets, and you're invading dungeons, and yes, it's just like Zelda. And it's not as refined as Zelda, but it's pretty cool, and it looks great. It looked great on the big screen, it looked great on the phone, and I played this with my daughter, and she was like, yeah, is this Zelda? What's happening here? I mean, she was completely like, okay, we could spend time in this world and defeat all this. It looks like it's really well crafted, and I haven't played a whole bunch of it, but it's one of those games where I'm going to dive deeper into it, and I'm probably going to come back with a full review of this one. Yeah. A very cool game that I checked out is called Shinsekai from Capcom, where you play this character that's inside of a diving suit. It's a little bit Metroid-ish, taking on enemies and using the propulsion systems of your diving suit to get around. Very, very cool atmosphere in the game. It's a side-scrolling title. It's not a 3D experience, but it's made with 3D polygons. Lots of great texture detail and special effects across the screen. This looks really special. I haven't played tons. I'm just sort of giving you guys an overview of some of the titles that I've been playing, but this one put a big smile on my face. Very pleasantly surprised by Shinsekai. I also dug the skateboarding game Skate City, which liberally borrows ideas from the fantastic Ollie Ollie games, but there is a really nice coat of paint on Skate City. There's great ambient lighting, and there's some cool weather effects, and great music. Of course, it has to have great music. And it's a little bit easier to play than Ollie Ollie, so you're pulling off all kinds of fun tricks and grinding off of different obstructions, and you just feel like a badass as you're completing stages. Super impressed with this game. It's a great controller game as well, and it's a little bit hypnotic. It's one of those ones where it becomes addictive and you just want to have a better run and get better points and keep unlocking stuff. I dig Skate City. And a game that's kind of near and dear to my heart. It's a smaller type of racing experience, but it's in the vein of Spy Hunter. It's called Agent Intercept. This is a really cool game. It's stripped out of, massive texture detail. It's all just, shaded polygons and stuff, but it looks terrific and it runs quite well. You don't have full control of everything. It's not like you're right behind the car. You're looking at things from different camera perspectives. You're dodging and avoiding enemies that are shooting at you. You're also knocking them out burnout style or dropping mines behind you or blasting them with rockets. It's very sleek, and the spy music is cool, and the little cut sequence bits that pop up. The thing that they're doing with this game, though, is that they're kind of unlocking content on the go, so you don't get the full experience. You can play that first mission a bunch of times to kind of rise up on the leaderboards, but it's addictive, and I want more, and I'm a little bit bummed that, more isn't available right out of the way, but Agent Intercept is really special. From the makers of Enter the Gungeon comes a platformer shooter called Exit the Gungeon, which plays similarly, except you're jumping up on platforms and trying to evade all kinds of characters that are coming at you kind of in a side-scrolling way. I loved Enter the Gungeon. Same kind of deal here, lots of different characters, dual-stick shooting mechanics, lots of different weapons that you're going to unlock and be gifted as you progress into the game. It's addictive. Again, I have just barely scratched the surface, but impressed there. I also looked at Sonic Racing, which I'm not a big fan of because it feels so much like a mobile game. It's a vertical racing experience, which is weird for me. Like I would much prefer that game to be tilted landscape so I could play it like a traditional racer. Looks good though, and it's cool that it's there, and it's cool that it's not asking you for money like Mario Kart Tour is, which is just abhorrent. I have to say that Apple Arcade has been impressing me so far. Perhaps there isn't like a console-sized trailblazing experience here, you know, with the tag. Never seen this before. But still, in terms of value and in terms of breadth of content and some of the great developers that Apple has been working with, I'm just happy that for a reasonable fee, a very reasonable fee, you get access to a bunch of games that are worth playing and aren't asking you for more money. And you know what? I've just scratched the surface. There's tons of games I haven't even checked out, and I'll definitely be reporting back with reviews on specific titles and also feedback as this service kind of matures. But you know what? I am very impressed with what Apple has done here. I do have to make a concerted effort to go and check out what Google Play Pass is doing. This isn't brand new because there are other subscriptions to game services out there like the Xbox Game Pass, PlayStation Now, EA Origins, but it does feel like there is a shift happening in a much larger way. When we've got companies like Google with Stadia and Play Pass and Apple getting involved in this, presumably there will be more coming to the table with more packages like this. This is going to become very commonplace, and we're going to have a lot of choice for some not too expensive monthly fees. But so far, Apple Arcade gets a big thumbs up for me.